Mayor McLean, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for coming back.
It's great to be back. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I know today's a working day and you are humming along, doing everything. Thanks for fitting it in. I had a conversation this morning with Senator Cody Galloway about one of her keynote bills, which was essentially making public camping illegal, right? And this is a key thing that she felt was really important. She considered it a campaign promise to her constituents and other people, and just saying, look, we don't have that many homeless people in the Treasure Valley yet. And obviously that's in sharp relief to our surrounding states. And she said, look, we need to get ahead of this. We see things that haven't worked in other states. Public camping, as compassionate as people convey it as, is not a compassionate solution, and it's not a solution at all. We need to fix these things. Now, she was very clear on saying, hey, bottom line is we're not going to tell the cities how to fix this. We're not going to tell them exactly what to do. We're just going to say this thing over here is not an option. And she wished you the best of luck and had confidence that you'd be able to figure this out. So that was beautiful. Talk to me about this.
Sure. Well, first off, I appreciate her confidence. And you said something that I want to hone in on, and that is that camping's not a solution and it's not compassionate. And it's not. I mean, I've been clear the entire time that I've been mayor that we won't tolerate encampments, and that's why you aren't seeing them, that we are going to work on solutions that prevent that. And in a time like this, when we're growing the way we are, we see housing costs rising, occupancy rates in apartments dropping. Like, it's hard work to make sure, and I appreciate that she called out that we aren't like other states, to make sure that we don't see the problems in our city that we're seeing in other places. And that's by design and very intentional. So all that said, yes, there was a law that was passed that gives the Attorney General the right to investigate police departments and cities if they don't ticket folks that are sleeping in their cars. We're following the law. We passed an ordinance last week that City Council did that seeks to follow the law. We just put the words of the Galloway law right into our city ordinance, and the police department's figuring it out. So we're doing that.
That's fantastic. And I think you said occupancy rates of apartments are dropping. Do you mean vacancy rates?
Oh, excuse me. Yes. Thanks for calling that out.
Sure. Because as vacancy rates drop,
we just don't have enough homes, right? Like, we don't have enough homes. And when you see that, that there aren't enough homes for the people in a community, it's really hard to stay ahead of homelessness, which we have sought to do. And we've done that in great public-private partnerships by incentivizing housing, by putting our land out to lease to developers that will build housing with commitments that will be affordable, by looking at our zoning code, a market-based approach to make it quicker and more easy to build more homes for Boiseans. We're doing all the things, and we'll continue. I would say that while we were very frustrated during the session that this law was passed, because at the same time, the legislature had the opportunities to say yes to Governor Little's proposal that money go into a housing trust fund. We're the only state in the country that doesn't fund that regularly. It was funded with federal dollars during COVID, $50 million, used immediately to address housing concerns around the state. The governor wanted to do it again. JFAC voted no. The legislature voted no. That was a great way to partner on solutions, and I'd urge them to consider partnering in the future. Because you can ticket people, it doesn't solve a problem. We want to hold folks accountable for behavior that's not appropriate. We're going to follow the law. I welcome partnership. Like, just this week, had incredible conversations with the faith community, all different politics in the room. They shared one thing, and that is their commitment to tending to their flock and their membership, and taking care of people with compassion, and coming up with solutions to partner with the city to ensure that in this time when we have to ticket folks, we're also continuing to work on making sure there's enough homes and compassionate places for people to stay. I welcome any partnership that Senator Galloway and the legislature wants to provide.
Man, it's just such a complex problem.
It is.
Again, like, what's the number way you stop homelessness? You find houses for people.
We need housing. We need housing.
And again, you have obviously mental health crises, you have drug addictions, you have all kinds of things, and you have recovery programs, and Reverend Bill Roscoe,
yes,
Rescue,
great
like
work,
all
and
incredible work.
A key partner for us. Yeah.
Right. Understood on that.
Yeah.
And I know we're kind of short on time, so I hope you don't mind if I jump to another thing. But again,
we can jump all over the place. It's 4th of July week, so I'm super busy. And there's a lot of fun things happening this weekend that I look forward to enjoying with everybody in Boise.
It's great.
Yeah. It's quiet, but busy all at the same time.
By the way, question for you regarding 4th of July. Does Boise host, does Boise City sponsor and host like a fireworks show?
Oh, yes, we do.
Okay, where?
So it's at Julia Davis. No. I said the wrong name.
Screw that up all the time.
It's at Ann Morrison Park.
There you go.
The fireworks are set up near the clock tower.
Okay.
And it's super fun. Food trucks, hundreds and thousands of people. So many kids like playing soccer and playing in the fountain at Ann Morrison. Great fireworks show. The days are long here, so man, it's late. Right. It is late, but really. And then, of course, in Boise, there's a parade in the morning, pancake breakfast at C. Sanders Park. But we are kicking off America 250. And so for the next year, the city of Boise will have celebrations throughout the year that really kind of celebrate the fact that our country is 250 years old. And next year on July 4th, so the 250th anniversary of July 4th, we'll soon be sharing with the community like this wonderful, exciting 3-day festival we'll be hosting. I'm so excited.
That's like America Pride centered. Is that the idea?
Oh yeah, it's America 250.
And it's going to be a 3-day festival.
Because the 4th of July is on a weekend next year, so we have first Thursday and then Friday and then Saturday, the 4th of July. So lots of stuff will be happening in Boise to celebrate our nation's 250th anniversary.
God bless it. That's fantastic.
Yeah, super excited.
When I found out we were going to be able to connect again, it really gave me pause because I know so much of the conversation around the city of Boise in the media, which everybody likes to like, let's grab onto the hottest, most anxiety provoking or, divisive topic, was the city's decision on where and how to fly the flag, and then determining that, city flag, all these things. Yeah. And honestly, that's not really like a conversation that I really want to dig into, predominantly because I know so much more about what the city is doing as well. Yeah, and if people appreciate and agree with your position on the flag, then they appreciate and agree with it. And if they don't, then they don't. And there's nothing that I think we're going to say, even if we had the next 3 hours, that's going to change anybody's position on that. And so frankly, if it's all right, and I apologize if somebody tuned in to try to hear some crazy, I don't even really want to talk about that. It's been covered 1,000 times over.
Well, you know what? I'll say this. That's great. We don't talk about it. We pass an ordinance or a resolution that we now have official flags that we've historically flown because our residents expect us to. And that's it. And I can assure you, we have so much work that we are doing. It does not occupy brain space. There's a lot of work that's getting done by the city of Boise that I spend my time on. It's great not to talk about it because we aren't talking about it in City Hall.
Right. And if people want to find out about it, they can find out about it. But you did a State of the City address a month or two back.
Yeah.
And part of that, you brought up things that I had never considered for a large city. And obviously, I'm a nobody. It's not like I'm a city planner. I'm not in politics and stuff. But it really gave me pause because it's wow, the depth and care going into the creation and continued cultivation of Boise is really substantial. One of the things you were talking about was, I believe it's something like 70 or 80% of kids that live in the city of Boise are like a 5-minute walk away from a park.
74%, a 10-minute walk.
10-minute walk. I was off slightly. Talk to me about this because this is an access issue, a recreational access issue. I actually had Brad Wilson, the general manager of Bogus Basin, on the other day. He runs Bogus Basin is a nonprofit.
Yeah, I was just up there with my husband mountain biking this weekend. It was so fun.
Right. And he does a great job. And the idea the idea around Bogus that I so love is that you have this incredible recreation opportunity that is not held captive through capitalism, right? We very much in this area support access to recreational outdoor activities that are publicly funded and publicly maintained, or at least done from a nonprofit standpoint, right? Talk to me about recreation opportunities and specifically city parks within Boise.
Yeah, and you touched on a couple of things I want to talk about because you talked about the accessible trails that we have recreation that's on public land. So I want to touch on that because it was under threat and it will remain under threat. Our legacy of setting aside open space and working again in partnership with landholders to provide access for trails and open space for residents forever. And then our park school. I'll start with the park school. Did we not talk about this last time?
I don't think we did.
Okay.
We talked about a couple developments specifically that were close to parks and on public transit lines and things.
Oh yeah, the housing that was opening. So, and those kiddos get counted in being able to walk to a park. This was my goal, and the city council agreed. Every kid in this city should be able to, pretty much as I think about it, run out their front door, get to a park within 10 minutes safely. So of course that means sidewalks, eyes on the street, relationships with your neighbors, so much more than a park, but then also a
Sidewalks
park.
are hard to maintain now.
They are hard to maintain.
Like, that's
Actually,
a thing.
they're hard to create now, right?
But if you have like a giant offsetting in concrete, can you address that with like ACHD
Other dollars?
funding? Yeah.
I mean,
if you're not
you'll have to
upgrading
ask
the
the
city,
legislator.
I will have to, you know what, I'll have to get
they're
Commissioner
super
Pickering.
interested in our streets
Apparently.
and sidewalks.
Anyway,
for some
so I'm
reason.
sorry,
Anyway,
I interrupted
I
you.
digress.
Safely and quickly get to parks.
And this is the reason I think about it this way. I have 2 kids. They're grown up, one's in college. But Aiden, when he was 5, would just run out the front door and start running down the street, and he'd have sidewalks that he could use. He could cross streets safely. Right. He'd see people along the way, so with eyes on the streets. He'd get to a park within 10 minutes, and he could just play. And while he was at that park, he'd run into other people in the neighborhood. There were days that he would introduce me to people in the neighborhood.
This is Jeffrey.
And every kid in Boise should get to do that. And so it gave us, I love goals and to then be able to measure progress because it helps us make decisions. And I wanted to make sure that as we're investing in parks, that we're investing in a way that really does ensure that those that don't have access to them get them. So we've made a lot of investments in South Boise and West Boise. We just opened the Settlers Canal Path. That was our 100th park and opened quite a few, I want to say, now I can't remember, but I think it was about 2,000 folks that could walk now to a park within 10 minutes. We've acquired land in other necks of the wood and in other neighborhoods in West Boise to be able to help us meet that goal. We know exactly where we need parks. And so then we, scour for opportunities so we can set aside some land to prepare to build a park in the future. Because our goal is that 100% of Boiseans, Boise kiddos, as I like to think about it, will be able to make that 10-minute walk to a park.
And the first off, that's great. And I think that is something that, again, as somebody outside of city planning, it's like, whoa, I hadn't considered that. And that is really, really important, especially in such a family-oriented community.
Yeah.
But the other thing that actually ties 100% back to the issue that we started off with, which is, look, there are plenty of parks. My wife and I used to, every morning before we had kids, we walk down to Pete's Coffee. And I know, not a Pete's Coffee fan. I've been drinking a lot of local coffee. I just want you to know.
That's just a reminder that you're not from here.
Oh my God. Isn't it true?
But you are from here now.
I am from here now.
And that's what matters.
That's what matters. Anyway, we would walk to get a coffee. And then I'd get a brand muffin, both get a large coffee, and then we'd share the muffin and walk home. And we'd walk past this park called Willard Park in Berkeley. And it was a beautiful park, like huge grass area. People would set up like zip lines and stuff, or not zip lines, but those
like walking,
they like
things.
Whatever. And it was like, okay, great that we have this park. Unfortunate that my wife and I didn't even feel comfortable walking past it because of the vagrants and occupants of the park at like 7:30 in the morning, and they'd be, on drugs or whatever. And again, we can have parks, we can have great amenities and pat ourselves on the back. It's like, oh, we have 100% of the kiddos in Boise have access to parks. But they're not safe. So it's like it all goes hand in hand.
But they are safe.
Yes,
in Boise, they are safe.
Right, that's my point, which is you need these two things, which is if you want public spaces, you have to provide safe public spaces, not just accessible, but safe public spaces. Yeah. And it's like hitting both of those things at once is really the key.
And that's why I say a safe walk to the park within 10 minutes, because it's got to be safe.
Right.
You want the park to be safe. You want the walk to be safe so that folks feel comfortable walking through their neighborhoods, connecting with people individually, seeing folks face to face, and then, spending great time in a neighborhood park that they were able to get to amongst and with neighbors.
Right. Other things. Yeah. Right. And again, I know
the open space trails and okay. So a couple things on that. I love what Bogus Basin has done. Brad Wilson and team have really transformed that into a year-round recreational space, which I just find so exciting for our city. And this weekend, I actually went up and Scott and I took the Around the Mountain Trail, which I hadn't been on in 3 years because 2 years ago, I blew out my knee. And so last year, I still wasn't ready. And man, I forgot how technical it was for me. But it was so fun. It was great to see families up there just enjoying the day. You can go up there, spend no money. You can go up there and spend money. Scott and I didn't spend money because we went on a trail that's managed by the Ridge to Rivers Partnership, which the city's a big part of. And
they don't charge you to park, which is another thing Brad brought up.
Which is
it's
great.
Like, no,
that's
come
true.
on up.
Yeah, you can
just park here.
We drove up. We did the tour. We grabbed a Coke. and then we went back down. But that trail that we were on is one of over 200 miles of trails that the Ridge to Rivers Partnership manages. And it would, we could have ridden back down to Boise if we'd wanted to. But in the last couple weeks, we heard that Senator Lee from Utah had proposed selling off public lands. And first, it was like 255 million acres of land in the West. And it was a lot. It was 20% of our trails were at risk in Boise. Because
Montana, of course, exempted.
Of course. I was so frustrated by that. I'm like,
a
seriously?
co-sponsor from Montana?
Like, seriously? Just like carve out Montana?
Yeah.
And then he got a ton of pressure from recreationists, like people in the West that know what it means to enjoy and have access to lands in trust. And they're not just Western land; they're national. They belong to America, right? And so then he said, "Okay, I'll carve out forests." And so people outside of the West are like, "Oh yeah, that sounds good. Like forests are saved," not recognizing that BLM land is also land that's where people hunt, where people hike, where they do all the things. And in Boise,
and so many of the Idaho, if I may just add in one piece, that so many of the Idaho State parks are actually trailheads designed to allow people to come together, park safely. It might be a restroom or something like that. And then their entrances to public lands, where it's like, okay, a huge swath of the state parks are just designed to gain safe access to these public lands.
Yeah.
So if the public lands go, the state parks, there's like, okay, so now we're like, a trailhead to nothing.
Well, and what would have happened in Boise, and you're talking about trailheads, just a couple months ago, after a year plus of working with the BLM Foundation, it's a national foundation, they granted us money to build a trailhead on Cartwright Road to access Polecat. Ultimately, you can get up to Sweet Connie, you go up Dry Creek, and then you can get up to Bogus. That's a trailhead that they could fund because it's connecting to BLM land. And another example of beautiful land that the nation doesn't understand matters because it's not forest, but he was proposing to sell these lands to the highest bidder. And his proposal was taken out of the bill, thank goodness. But I say this because I believe that this will continue to be a threat to Western cities, to Boise. His final proposal put 11% of our trails at risk. And they were at risk because they cross BLM land. So when you sell a piece of BLM land to the highest bidder, their little private playground, they have the right to shut off access to all of us that use the trails.
As we saw in McCall.
Yes, we've seen it. We know what that means. And that's what was being proposed. And that's why I will continue to talk about there are housing solutions that don't require selling off lands that are our legacy, held in trust for us in America to the highest bidder. You're not going to get affordable housing in Boise foothills. But there's a lot of government land in the flats that I'd welcome state and federal partnership with to put out like we have in land trust, in land leases. Say, hey, we're going to lease this parking lot to a developer who will build housing and commit that it's affordable. That's the solution, not to sell off our beautiful public lands. And the irony is that we're working hard on housing, and at the very same time that Senator Lee and all these people in Congress are proposing to sell off lands to the highest bidder, Boiseans are saying, let's protect some more. So we have a legacy. Those trails that you enjoy are made possible because Boiseans voted first in 2001 and then in 2015 to tax themselves with a property tax levy that would be used to set aside open space, to provide parks and recreation access, to help do clean water work along the river. $20 million so far Boiseans have invested that's yielded over $40 million worth of land. And the city council will consider in about 2 weeks, I think the 15th is a Tuesday, a proposal for me to put the issue to the ballot again. So ask Boiseans again as this levy fund runs out, like, should we keep protecting public land and creating more land in Boise so that more Boiseans have access to more opportunity for free to enjoy the beautiful spaces that we all enjoy?
And it's really for all, right?
It's
not
everybody.
for Boise. Like I could drive in here.
Yes,
and
yeah,
go
I know.
do
You
it,
don't have to pay for it, but you can use it.
Right. And you guys are footing the bill.
But Boiseans are investing.
Yes.
Is how I like to say it. We invest because we value the opportunity to set aside land for our kids and grandkids to use today, but to know that the lifestyle and community that we enjoy, we can build and create more homes. And we're doing that with city land in public-private partnership, and we can protect our foothills open space and our river and provide access to parks and pathways throughout the city. So we'll ask Boiseans to do it again.
Man, it's all of that. Yeah, I have a good friend, older gentleman who lives just off of Beacon Road in Eagle, and he lives on one of the offshoots that goes north, and his street literally butts up to BLM land, and he was trying to tell people as loud as he could, like, listen, if this goes through, literally these beautiful Eagle foothills that everyone loves, that's gone.
And the city released a map to show what would have been at risk.
Right.
And I think, people say, well, it didn't happen. But it is a Trojan horse. Right. And beware and be on watch, because we will have to do again what we did in the last month, and that is stand up for the legacy that public lands are and provide us, because I'm sure that they'll be under threat again.
Oh yeah, and again, like, I'm not in politics, and I learned a lot going through the legislative session. I did almost 200 episodes. I think it was like 175 episodes in the 90 days of the legislative session. Sitting here, shout out State PTA for letting me continue to have this office to interview you and other people. But understanding that there are some bills that come out that people know are going to be bad, and they throw them out to find out like what level of friction they get back from the populace, and where they're like, okay, people got really mad about this piece, but we could sneak this piece in, or maybe we take this and couch it in there. So yeah, the idea that it's like, okay, it stopped. The motivation and the perpetual force that's going in that direction did not stop. They just stopped that particular bill at that time. It doesn't mean it's not going to resurface, and it doesn't mean that the objection to it doesn't need to be any more robust or less robust. Like, we absolutely have to keep fighting for it.
Yeah.
One last question at the end here. You're talking about leasing out city land to developers that commit to make attainable housing. I've realized the word affordable is very, like, it doesn't pull well, so you have to say attainable and not affordable. Somebody told me that.
Housing at Boise budgets.
However, it's like housing that people can afford. Anyway, the point is that is that the style of partnership that you guys? I hear public-private partnership, and the idea is like, okay, we're going to bring a piece of this, and we're going to maintain ownership of this piece, and you bring this piece, and we're going to work together to get this thing.
Yes, in fact, the housing developments that were opening when we talked last, the housing along Franklin Park, that's now open since I saw you, the Giraffe Lap daycare for 89 kiddos. That's on city land. The only part that we're engaged in is we own the land, and then private development and private business did everything else. So folks will say, you shouldn't be building housing. We're not building housing.
We just collect the rent that they have to pay us at fair market value for the land.
We're saying, well, it's an incentive. No, it's not. What we're doing is to make sure that it remains affordable at Boise budgets.
So they don't pay you money for the lease, but they commit.
They have to lease the land for like $1 or something. Right. It's fair. It's right.
Right. But what they do is they provide at their cost housing that's more attainable for more Boiseans.
And we put it out for competitive bids. So we say, we have this piece of land, and these are the things we want to see on it. We say mixed use on the ground floor. So childcare is one of our priorities. We want to see housing at Boise budgets with this, kind of average income. We want to see a mixed income neighborhoods being built, because those are the most successful. And we say, and so compete for it. Give us your best ideas, and then we select the most competitive, and then they get to work. So we did that at Franklin and Orchard. Wilson Street Station will open soon. I toured it right before families started moving in. That's right next to Taft Elementary School. Another piece of land that we had, and we said, you know what, this is land that's much better for housing than anything else. It's on a bus line next to a school.
Sure.
And so we did the same thing. We're working with the county on another one up on the bench. We have quite a few around the city happening where what we had was land, and we said, this makes sense for housing. That is what Senator Lee and the federal government could do. That is what the state could do in urban areas to help in public-private partnership meet the housing needs. So my concern with the whole federal lands thing, beyond the fact that these are public lands held in trust that are part of our legacy, should never be touched, is that they were using housing as the reason. And people that build housing know you can't build affordable housing and like enough housing up in mountains.
Right.
But what the government could do, if they were serious about partnership, is there's a whole bunch of things in the Congress right now they could look at. Providing more tax credits, market-based approach to incentivize housing. But they could also say, hey, we've got a giant parking lot behind our BLM building in Boise. should we look at housing there? Or, hey, like there's a giant parking lot next to the post office that's kind of empty most of the time. We put that out for housing. If they keep the land, they can dictate the terms. That is how the government can partner on housing rather than using housing as that Trojan horse to sell our lands.
God, look, I'm an idiot, but that makes a lot of sense. God bless it. Listen, I know it's a working day. I know you have a hard stop. Is there anything you'd like to say here at the end?
I just want to, because I probably won't see you again for at least a month. Tons of stuff happening in Boise right now. So I want to do a plug for, of course, everything 4th of July. There's pancake breakfast at Andrews Park, I said, parade, and then fireworks at Ann Morrison Park next to the clock tower, and come play in the fountain. We have Hyaldi in July, which is such a fun festival. It's every July, the Basque community celebrates San Ignacio weekend, the last weekend in July. But every 5 years, they have a giant festival. 5 years ago was COVID. They didn't have it. So it's been 10 years. The Basque president, delegations from our sister city, Guernica, thousands of people from the Basque country come and celebrate for a whole week. That's the last week of July into the first weekend of August, happening on the Basque Block at the hockey rink arena. There'll be things in the evenings, lots of great activities. Would encourage people to come down and enjoy. And on Monday of that week, we'll be opening our 101st park, Kaisho Corner, we'll have an iconic art piece and opportunities for folks to play music and stuff there. That's right down near the Basque Block. So lots of fun things happening.
I'm so happy you mentioned the Basque event and that it's at the end of July. Because if you said it was next week or the week, like I've missed a bunch of things because I had to be out of town.
Yeah.
I'm like, thank God I'm going to be here for that. I'm definitely going.
You should bring your stuff and just set up and talk to people. It'd be kind of fun.
That would be something, that's for sure. Anyway, Mayor, thank you for coming in. I appreciate you. Thank you for making the time. Let's do this again.
Thanks. Appreciate it.